just levitate.
What's up guys, Gunthix here from Good. Ate some berries, they were nice catch. Today I wanted to take a look at the thief build. I did say in the newsletter that we're going to be making baseline guild builds, and each week we'll go back and we'll have a look and we'll change what we need to change. But here is the baseline for the thief in Guild Wars 2. It is a Condi build. I know that may sound cheese, but the idea of it is to allow the thief to be able to flag. As we want in our group, we only want the thief to be able to flag our opponents. So this build is heavily set up to allow a lot of regen while invisible, a lot of Condi removal, and also the mobility that is required to be able to, for the 1 or 2 thieves to move around the party and quickly dispatch the enemies. So first up with the build, it is a dagger pistol dagger build. The reason for dagger is to allow a heavy mobility through the use of Heartseeker while we're mobile, and then swapping to the pistol dagger offhand to allow for body shot, the torment stacks, and also the bleeding on single shot. In terms of the bar, we run hide in shadows, which is a really good removal of Condis. You can also roll withdraw if you want a more mobile build, but I do recommend hide in shadows as well. We'll also invisible, we gain stealth regen. Blinding powder, again for stealth regen. Also, it is really nice for the thief to run through while everyone's stacking might and the fire fields are down. The thief simply runs through, pops their blinding powder. The stealth applies to 5 targets. It's a blast finisher, so it's also applying might. This is going to help with the uptime of might keep for the rest of the party. Might isn't the greatest deal for thieves as they are heavy mobile, and they more, as I've said, they're more mobile towards flagging rather than continually engaging in combat. We run Shadow Step. For anyone that knows the Shadow Step trick, begin your flag, Shadow Step away, and just before your flag hits the ground, Shadow Step back to your target. This can also apply to steal if someone wishes to teleport away. That's the only reason I run Shadow Step. Also, so the thief can quickly exit the fray if they need to. They can teleport up a cliff. Shadow Refuge in itself is great. If the thief is heavily bursted down, they can pop a Shadow Refuge, stand on the edges of it and just watch for the combat. And while they're in their Shadow Refuge, they'll pretty much completely heal their health. Basilisk Venom is amazing. We also run a Signet, so that will also give might and as well as siphon damage from our siphon health, from our enemies. So they'll turn to stone, they'll be immobiled for a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weapons and everything. So I run Settlers with crate runes. That is full 6 crate runes, and that gives us bleed duration as well as bleed, torment, and poison when we use our elite. As I said, we use Basilisk Venom. It's a nice fast elite recharge rate as well. On our weapon, I run bursting as well as corruption stacks. What these two allow me to do is 6% duration on conditions, as well as building my condition damage rather than running a base condition damage to start off with. The thief should never lose their stacks, as they should never go down. So this is a great little thing. I also run Sigil of the Night. That's because this incinerator is one of my dungeon weapons. So as I said, we mostly use that first dagger to move around, to be more mobile. You can put a also put a short bow on and run that. As you see, the what's that called? The stats on the legendaries have also changed to allow for toughness, healing power, condition damage. That again is Settlers, I believe. If we go up, yes, it is Settlers. And then full Settlers on my trinkets and things. These will become ascended when I've actually finalised the build and am happy with Settlers. Into the build, I run Trickery, Shadow Arts, new Daredevil trait. I don't run Staff because that's disgusting. In Trickery, I pick up Caltrops. It's going to be pretty much overpowered, especially when you run into a Zerg and you dodge. It does not have a cap on how many people it affects, so anyone within that dodge will be affected by it. Bleed is incredibly powerful. It forces people to quickly assess their situation and change what they're doing. Bountiful Theft, it's going to steal boons, give Vigor to nearby allies. Now, Vigor is extremely powerful. For those that don't know, when you dodge, you're using your Vigor. Vigor is your endurance. So while you have Vigor, you're going to be recharging those dodges fast. Dodges allow you to evade attacks, and especially if a thief goes and steals to an enemy in the middle of a Zerg, they're going to apply Vigor to 5 of their allies around them. which is going to allow the Guardians, the Warriors, the Revenants, and the Ellies, Mesmers, everyone in that fray to gain that little bit of extra endurance regeneration while they're still trying to allow themselves to heavily heal. We then have Sleight of Hand, which is a daze. This is incredibly powerful for the Thief, who is going to target mainly the Mesmers and Necros, so they're allowing themselves to daze them, and it's also going to reduce the recharge of our steel. Next line is Shadow's Embrace. This is in the Shadow Arts trait line. So first up, we remove Condis while we're inside stealth. This is incredibly powerful, especially when Burn and Bleed are the most powerful conditions against a Thief. They can quickly deplete their health, so we do want to keep an eye on what conditions we have, and even just using our Cloak and Dagger on supply stacks or walls to allow us to quickly remove those conditions is always viable. Meld with Shadows, this is one that you must pick up, but is also incredibly powerful. It allows 1 extra second on stealth. This applies to everyone that enters your stealth field as well, so it's not just a self buff. So using that blinding powder, like I said, allows 4 seconds, then the Mesmer can correctly set up their veil to allow the rest of the team. Leeching Venoms, this is that one that I picked up. Now, I used to run Hidden Thief, but I found that a lot of my time while I was going for my Cloak and Dagger onto my Steel, I was removing my stealth because I had already gained it from my Steel. So I did remove this line, and I don't actually prefer that. When you grant stealth to an ally, they gain regen. The only time we're going to be granting stealth to an ally, as I've said, is where we're popping our blinding powder. So this is going to be a blast finisher in a fire field, and we don't really want to apply a whole 3 seconds of regen to someone before they've even actually entered combat. So on this line, I actually pick up the Leeching Venoms. Next line is the Shadow's Rejuvenation, self-explanatory. Gains initiative as well as healing. Now, this is incredibly powerful, especially when we're low on initiative and we quickly jump into our Shadow Refuge. We're going to fill up our bar nice and fast on the back of this. Can also run things like Blinding Powder, which is going to allow a Cloaked in Shadows when we take falling damage. It's not really that great. When you use a Venom skill, you apply the effects to all nearby allies as well. Venoms recharge faster, so this line here is actually going to reduce our Basilisk Venom to 32 seconds, but unfortunately isn't going to give us Shadow's Rejuvenation, so I prefer Shadow's Rejuvenation over Venomous Auras. In the Daredevil line, there's a couple different things we can take. Most of them are physical based, so Havoc Master, deal increased damage to enemies within the range threshold. This is going to be 360 range. If we take a look at this, this is 900 range. So if we swap to our dagger, you can see it's 130 range, 450 range, 130, 900, 130. So you can see when we go in for our Cloak and Dagger, it's going to deal 7% increased damage over top of anything else. This one I mainly choose because there is nothing else that really affects my line. There's a couple of critical hit ones, but if we take a look at our equipment, we run almost 0 critical hit chance. It's not Zerka, so we don't run a high critical hit chance. So I do prefer to pick up a little bit increased damage when I'm going for my Cloak and Dagger, or going for a stab and then have to quickly Vital Shot or swap to daggers to get myself out of the fray. Staff Master, I don't pick that up because that's disgusting. Removes a condition whenever you evade an attack. Now, depending how good you are at evading attacks, once a Guardian puts down a seal or something and you have a whole heap of conditions, it will be very wise of you to run into that seal and simply dodge through it. When you dodge through that, no matter what happens, you will always proc an evade. You can proc 2 or 3 evades. This has no internal cooldown at this point in time, so if a Guardian has large seals, or a Warrior places maybe a banner, or you can see a Warrior 100 blading, it is very viable to run towards that Warrior and evade through them to cause yourself to proc 2 or 3 evades. This is going to remove 2 or 3 conditions. This is very overlooked, and no one actually realizes how powerful Escapist Absolution is. Pulmonary Impact. Now this is actually pretty lame. Causes a massive rupture that deals massive damage when the skill ends. This ability cannot critical hit. This is more of a staff weapon, so we don't actually run that. And finally, Impaling Lotus or Lotus Training. Now this is going to change our dodge. We must be very wary of what this actually changes our dodge into. Changes our dodge into a few daggers that fly out in different directions. They hit targets that are in stealth, so it's incredibly powerful. And they hit targets while we are in stealth. So dodging whilst in a shadow refuge or whilst just entering stealth is a very bad move in the terms of this skill, as it's going to remove our stealth, but it's going to allow a very strong bleed, a very strong torment, and it's going to cripple an opponent, so we can use this while escaping. There are a few other things. Bounding Dodger is actually really powerful. It's a leap finisher as well as a really strong damage. Once we use this, it's going to give a 10% damage increase to physical damage, so that's dagger skills. So if you want to run more of the dagger side, run Bounding Dodger on the back of this. All in all, guys, this condition build is very powerful. It does take a lot to run. It does take a lot to learn how to play, because it is not like a traditional thief build, which is heavy zerk or heavy damage base. So in terms of the boons, I like to run a 20% boon duration. This is going to also allow us 33% chance for might when we crit. As I said, we don't crit too much, but it's the boon duration that I want to catch. Boon duration being if the thief needs regen, or the thief is gaining regen from a lot of their skills, such as hide in shadows, we're going to boost that again by 20%. So you can have a look here, it's 4 seconds of regen, so it's actually going to last a total of about 5.5 seconds. The second one I like to run is 20% condition duration, as well as 70 condition damage. Now condition duration isn't really that great unless you're single targeting maybe a Mesmer that has very low condition removal, or another thief that doesn't run a build that allows them to remove conditions periodically while in stealth. The one that I run on this for is the 70 condition damage, and the fact that it's a 1 hour buff. These are fairly expensive, that's why I prefer the fried golden dumplings over the top. Last line is Toxic Focusing Crystals. Now this is 100 condition damage, this is incredibly overpowered, and it's going to increase our duration by a further 10%. If we put those together, we're gaining 30% condition damage and 170 condition damage. This is going to be an incredibly powerful buff, and it's going to allow our bleeds from our single shot, which is our vital shot, to be a lot more powerful. Remember that while in stealth you can also use your auto attack, and it's going to be a incredibly fast strike that is going to inflict bleeds. This is the cream of the crop of the build, and this is going to inflict the most amount of bleeds in the shortest amount of time. For any trait changes that we do come across in the future, I'll be sure to post comments as well as another video if they are very heavy. Keep it on the channel for more builds that are upcoming. So as always, guys, remember, the good makes you better.